He does the.
Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo.
Utah, give me 2.
Palazzo.
Hey, give me 2.
Welcome. We are live with you tonight. It is Monday, January 19th. This is the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's, and we are bringing you the Prospects Power Hour. I have got the power above me on the screen. As I look up this way, I've got Benjamin Chase at Big Gentle Ben on the socials. Tell all the people hello. Say what's up.
Hi. Hello. What's up?
Very meaningful. And then over here above me, I've got Robbie Baseball.
Oh,
Howdy, partner.
open one.
Oh my God, that just sounded great. Well, it has been a long off season. We are getting closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting and what we all love as fantasy baseball players, actionable data. But until then, we are going to talk about all the things. What's up, Uncle Ted? All 3 ladies on the screen are beautiful. So thank you. We love that. We see that. We are here to talk about some prospects, and we are going to be doing the big 3. First 3 in, first 3 out. What do you guys call it?
Big 3, next 3.
Big 3, next 3. I knew I'd get that wrong. I'm not a details person. You know, I leave that to the But seriously, we are going to be talking tonight about 3 teams. We're going to be talking about Milwaukee. We're going to be talking about Robbie Baseball's Colorado Rockies, and we're going to be talking about the Fightin' Phils out in Philadelphia. Before that, you guys are probably better set up to tell all the things that we want people to know, like and subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. We are here for you. What are the corporate things that Mike would want us to say tonight?
I think you just kind of hit it. It's really, go to the Discord. Discord's in the, in the podcast or in the links that are underneath the show info on YouTube. Other than that, yeah, that's where you can chat with us a lot. I mean, well, okay, maybe not so much Robbie, but
I tried.
But for sure, I'm around that Discord a lot, and I answer a lot of questions. So,
yeah, and we always appreciate the support. We love doing this, and you doing that for us means the world. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the share button on your socials. Let people know about the genius that I've got above me. It's not my pretty face that makes the facts happen. And give us a 5-star rating, And if there's something that we did that you didn't like, don't give us a rating on socials or through that. Contact us directly. We want to hear from you. So
or find me on Truth Social. Ben and I like to hang out there in our free time.
Already derailed. It's like a train wreck, only cleaner. So before we get into prospects, since this is the first show of the year, I just wanted to spend a second and ask each of you, what are you looking forward to this year for baseball? I don't want to talk about problems we might have in 2027. I don't want to talk about shit that might have happened in 2025. What are you guys looking forward to this year? What's the big thing you're hopeful for as a fan, as a player of fantasy baseball? I don't care. Just what are you into this year? What are you looking at?
Ben?
I think the big thing for me is, yes, we can talk about the 2027 thing. Guys, no matter what, minor leagues are going to play next year because the minor league contract doesn't run out until after the 2027 season. So we're still going to have minor league baseball. Just anyone who's on the 40 might not be able to play. But still, hey, that's something. So, they can take our Major League Baseball from us, but you're going to have to pry the minors away from my cold, dead hands, as, has been said before. But it is, I think a lot is being made of this. And quite frankly, it's the owners fighting with the owners, which is stupid. And, the players would like to have some conversations. But what I'm really looking forward to is, we'll get back and talk about the Braves because I like to do that. But
I can't wait to start the Acuna trade rumors, Ben. I can't wait.
I'm honestly looking forward to seeing how many of the pitchers survived spring training, because last year the Braves had more missed days by their opening day starting five than any other team has had in the history of baseball as far as missed days for an opening starting five. That is a statistic that really is not a fun thing to be claiming on your team. Yeah, the lineup missed plenty of days too, but the starting five was absolutely gutted. When Bryce Elder leads your team in innings, it's a tough year. So I'm looking forward to seeing that rotation at full strength and full health, at least to start. You know that there's going to be dinks and things along the way, but Schwellenbach and Sale and Strider all together on the field. That's a sexy weekend series right there.
Yeah, that's not bad pitching to look at. And the Braves really did have, an outlier year as far as their history has been concerned. I don't think that we have problems with their front office, medical staff, and they've always the last at least 10 years, they've hoarded pitching. There always seems to be 2 or 3 new Braves we're talking about every 2 or 3 years. Luis Gohara was the next great big up 7 years ago. Right, like we could go on. There's about a dozen names. I will say that I'm not as excited about Strider. I don't think I'm going to be drafting him anywhere, and I'm definitely going to watch him somewhere else.
Yeah.
His loss of velocity is real, and while he still has he's above 94, that magic number where stuff really happens and you make things go. He's no longer 98 and 99 with that fastball. And I think, unfortunately for him, he needs those ticks. So I'm going to watch to see if he gains that velocity on somebody else's roster this next year.
He needs that, or he needs more pitches. And the good thing he's been doing so far this winter has been the second part. So it sounds like he's working in, which I think is just sick, but he had a straight change. He's working on a split change as well, which if he gets that 98 back and he can work in a splitter off that 98 with the slider, oh God, that's just a sick trio of pitches. But he's also, the Braves have taught that Luke Jackson, like they call it the cement mixer slider. It's a pseudo curve, pseudo slider mix, but it breaks with a little bit of angle, but also sharp. So it's either a really hard curve or it's a, sharp breaking slider. Either way, that's what they're working with him to use more for a slider than the previous slider that he has been. So that'll be an interesting situation to see, but that's fine, Robbie.
Yeah, let's not talk Braves, all right, Ben? Like you said, you were gonna, right? Like, oh my lord, oh my lord. So,
hey, I'm starting the year off with Rockies for you. Come on.
Things I'm looking forward to are what the actual AL East is now, because I think it just had like an 18-month rumble in the rocks here, and we're going to see which one comes out or which guys come out as gems here.
Oh.
Exactly how far has Tampa Bay fallen now that Toronto has also decided that they are a big market club again? That run last year to me was, pitching based, but then everybody got behind the team and fun and games in the World Series. But as somebody who had openly last stated that they were a Mariners fan, it was difficult to be in Blue Jay land when they were playing against the Mariners and see that go. It was a best case scenario as far as getting to see the World Series. And I'm really interested to see how both teams, Seattle and Toronto, start 26 and then what they can legitimately do here. Because Boston looks like they've got 6 legitimate pitchers right now, plus the depth that comes as the offseason continues. Patrick Sandoval being a wild card now instead of the penciled in SP5.
Absolutely.
I think Kyle Harrison apparently forgotten in the mix. He'd be the 7th, 8th guy possibly on the depth chart right now. So Boston looks like they could be quite interesting. Everyone but Tampa looks like they could be really interesting, which makes me wonder what Tampa will do to still win 75 games.
Well, and Tampa always does things that you don't expect. They're always a little bit better. They're always, I think the AL East is the division this year. I think they're better than the NL West. I think that's the other one you could talk about as far as who's better. I think the AL West and NL East are slightly below those two divisions. Robbie, now I've been on podcasts with you where you talked about Toronto Blue Jays ownership and their unwillingness to spend on the on-field product.
Yeah.
How surprised are you that they've just decided to? They want to be the Dodgers of Canada. They want to be the East Coast, Beast Coast. Like what?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
They've been spending on the rotation and then the George Springer. That was their expense up to last year was we can't develop pitching, so we need to buy it, which is a big fantasy thing, right? You draft your hitters, you buy your pitchers, because at least at that point, your pitchers are established, especially in dynasty stuff. You don't want to draft pitchers all day long. You got to draft 3 for everyone that might get an MLB start. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone's got their saying about why they hate prospect pitchers. But in real life, the Blue Jays actually spent, and I thought they were in over their heads with their record last year, but they were able to maintain it and all the way, through the World Series. So I am impressed by what they've done, and I look forward to seeing what they can do within the organization, because every time a team does well, everyone's like, well, what's the depth situation? And Toronto has notoriously not produced major league pitchers. And like going back a decade, like we got Manoah, who was a developed college pitcher who they brought up quick and, is now an Atlanta Brave. I believe he'll be the opening day starter.
No, he's not on the Braves.
Oh, is it the Angels he went to?
I think he is on the Angels.
Angels?
Yeah.
Okay. But he went to the Braves. Sorry, he went to the Braves after they DFA'd him. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, he spent time. But anyway, they've got Manoah who like flamed, like bright light and then went out. And then Savage, who they accelerated because of their situation last year. I don't think under normal circumstances you would bring him all the way up, because the other guy that he was piggybacking with in Dunedin, which is where he started last year, we'll be discussing when we get into the big 3 next 3 for the Blue Jays, as he is still so far back, whereas Savage, they just pushed. So I'm curious. Pardon me?
Are you talking about Tiedemann?
No. Not Ricky T. Not the stall out. Yeah, I think it's Stanford.
He's another pitcher that they've had that just like what are the Blue Jays going to do with him?
We'll find out. But what is interesting with Toronto is the no signing Bo, which is totally fine in my book, because you don't need to sign a terrible shortstop who's excellent offensively when your team is not built around offense. Your team has been built around stable defensive players. They typically don't have guys who they punt at positions, except for Vlad when he was third and Edwin when he was third, and both guys ended up moving to first. So it will be interesting to see what they do with, the spring trainings, like leading up to spring training signings. Just how stable are they? And do veterans actually want to go to Buffalo and play, or do they want to go somewhere else? Or would they only go if they get that 10 days after they make a cut? How players can opt out at the end of spring training. How many people actually want to come to Toronto, and how are they going to fill out the roster? So I like what they did. It's so much better than all the other off seasons where it's like one player. And why didn't we get this guy?
And I think that goes right into our first news and notes segment here, that, which signings are important. I don't know that there's a particular player signing that's important, but I think
Jose
what you're
Suarez
seeing,
to the Orioles.
What you're seeing is that teams aren't giving out a 10.
Is this on?
Teams aren't giving. Yeah. Teams are not giving out a 10-year contract.
You're on.
And when Tucker signs the deal that he did with the Dodgers, it's come out since that the only team who is going 6+ was Toronto, who had a 10-year offer out there for him. The fact that Toronto is spending like they are, I think, honestly, you're seeing a little bit of teams see something on the horizon and they're not willing to go as far as they were on contracts. I mean, look at all the stinking opt-outs that everyone's getting.
Well, 29 teams are doing that, right? The one team that's back-to-back World Series champs is bucking the trend.
If there's no baseball in 2027, the Dodgers cannot be the first 4-time champion. That's great.
Okay, so fair enough. And I think honestly, the Dodgers are the only team that can pull that off. They're the only team that has the the capital with the players to be like, oh, I'm going to play at the Dodgers. Yeah, you can defer my money. I don't need it all right now.
I'm already generationally rich and will happily, make that happen later. But that's a certain type of player, which of course is the veteran player on a veteran-laden club that pumps and pumps and pumps. And that's why I can't wait until our third episode when we dive into the Dodgers, because I've already completed my list for the Dodgers, the Twins, and the Yankees, which is our third show. And all of my comments on the Dodgers relate to how they are doing things at the major league level and what those ramifications for the prospects are and what truly designates somebody in our big three versus our next three within that. So I think it's
by the time we get to the Dodgers, Zahir Hope could be the top prospect for the Tigers. I mean, let's be real. They could just finally pony up and say, we're willing to pay whatever it takes to get Skubal. And, you guys want Hope and DePaula to lead the trade? And they could do it, and their system is still one of the best in the game. Well, that's the really crazy part.
And that's the thing that I've been really curious about is it seems like the Dodgers are always considered to have a good organization in their minor league system. They've got great prospects, and we don't see a lot of them play in the majors with the Dodgers. And I'm curious to know how many of them we actually see play in the majors, or if we have this feeling about the Dodgers just because they're so good at taking care of their players and using the front office for analytics with their players. But I
think other than Michael Busch, who is outside of him, who has left the Dodgers and excelled?
Jordan Alvarez for a couple of years, but they didn't.
I mean,
James Outman had a really good series in September for the Twins.
Yeah. Alvarez was really young when he was moved.
Right.
That was a really young. I mean, any guy who's gotten up in their system, has developed in their system some and gone anywhere else really hasn't been great. I mean,
that's my whole point. I hear the love for the Dodgers. I hear the love for their organization. And I'm not smart enough to disagree with people who are smarter than me saying it, but I haven't seen a lot of results in the MLB. So maybe somebody can chew my ass out on socials and let me know what I'm missing. But
to your point on that too, Sam, Tampa Bay is a team that I zeroed in on a long time ago. Is everyone was saying they're so good at, draft and development. And I mean, of course, a lot of guys ended up with Tommy John and long delays before they ever were able to stabilize as major league players. But Tampa Bay was actually excellent at trading for prospects and then getting them across.
Which they did this offseason.
Yeah.
I think Tampa, that maybe can switch into our next thing on trades and what's important this offseason. I think Tampa has seen, hey, we're going up against probably 4 juggernauts this year, and we don't have a juggernaut. We have we have one really big time piece playing third base, and we got some other things around him. Let's go out and let's get a team that we can have in 3-4 years while he's still a stud. That's going to be really good. And they've made some excellent trades. I've been really impressed with the returns that the Rays have gotten. I will tell you, they must have really liked the 2025 draft, because every trade they make, they get back at least 2025 draftee. And they are loaded up right now with guys from that draft. And that's going to be, if they misjudge that year's talent, it's going to really hurt their system overall. But the Rays have done that. They have loaded up their system with other teams' prospects. I mean, that's what they did when you can say the one really bad they made looked really smart for a little bit, because they traded away Christopher Sanchez and they got Curtis Mead for him from the Phillies. And Mead was like an elite stinking prospect for a bit and has just fallen on his face at the major league level. Sanchez took a while to get there, but now he's a very consistent mid-rotation plus starter. That's pretty solid. Hold
on.
I'll give them that deal.
I want to give you a little bit of pushback. Chris Sanchez is a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball. I don't think he's mid-rotation. That ground ball and strikeout rate that he throws at you, and like you said, he's now done it. He has stayed healthy and pitched for a while. Like that was a terrible trade for Tampa Bay.
It is turned out to be poor for them. Sanchez, last year he was freaking great. There's no doubt about that. The biggest thing to me is he got to 200 innings, and nobody does that anymore. That's what I was really impressed by. But previous to that, he was 180 the year before with 153 strikeouts. And so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like last year seems like it was a out of nowhere level of performance. But if he bounces back down, I think his floor is that mid-rotation starter, and he's going to have some years like he had last year. So that's why I'm saying mid-rotation plus. Like he's going to always be at least a 3 for you.
Fair enough.
And that he's going to have some years where he pops out like last year. That's a really freaking good return. But it took some while. He took some lumps for a few years in Philly, and that's how that trade looks bad. But when you trade away Tobias Myers and end up with a third baseman that hits 45 home runs, you did okay. No. That's how they do their deals usually.
And I think that's the whole point, is that the AL East, there are 4 now juggernauts in that division, and Tampa Bay, who seems to thrive in that space. They were born from the fires of the Yankees spending everything, and Boston wanting to compete with them, and the Orioles always having a perennially good team, and Toronto riding their wave of good and then bad for a couple of years, and then good for a few years and bad. Like everything is at the top in the East right now. So maybe they win 70 games, maybe they win 95. I mean, Tampa Bay is a super wild card. So
they are weird like that, if they can ever figure out someone to catch a baseball for them, that lineup would have a guy every day that would be really interesting. And I especially wanted to say that because I know how much Robbie loves catchers. But the other trades that were really intriguing to me are the other Florida team, and that's the Marlins, because they went out and they got guys. Their trades are going to impact year's team. Tampa's building for their future. They're stocking up a whole bunch of prospects. Miami, they got Owen Casey, who will start opening day for them. And they traded away 2 pitchers now, and that's going to open up a spot for someone like, Robbie Snelling to come up and pitch for them on opening day in the rotation. They're going to have multiple pitchers that are going to have a chance.
Well, and they've got
rotation.
And they've got 2 guns right up front, right? If Yuri Perez and St. Alcantara have the seasons that we all think they're going to have, I mean, they're no slouches.
The NL East could be a division that goes 4 deep. If the Marlins can pitch, they've got enough talent in the lineup. It's the issue that talent is really young, and they don't care if they strike out, that means that you're prone to some long slumps, because strikeout hitters go into slumps. And if for some reason strikeout hitters going into slumps tends to end up a little bit contagious, it's kind of like the pox, and you end up with 3 or 4 guys that just can't seem to get a ball for a week, and your team is racking up 14 strikeout games day after day after day, and that's not a good feeling as a team.
Right.
But they're going to pitch around it, or potentially. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I wasn't asked what I'm looking forward to this season, but that's exactly it, is actionable data. Like I want to see what these moves, what these draft choices, what these trades, what these signings, like what are they going to actually do? Because we can talk about it all goddamn night, but it matters when we actually look at box scores. What happened? What did we see with our own eyes? So yeah, the NL East, and you say it could be a top 4. The Washington Nationals are putting together something interesting. If James Wood,
they are
back around,
they're probably 2-3 years away, but it's still there. I've really liked the moves they've made this offseason.
They've got some fun young talent. You never know what happens when people aren't smart enough to realize they're supposed to be mediocre and they start doing better than that. So I hope they think like a goldfish all year and make problems in the National League. I like the Nationals. So
I could see them being a team that's going to take a weekend series that you didn't think they would at all. So
right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Poor Robbie. So last but not least of our headline stuff, and I threw on here some folks. I had a chance to meet some of the folks on the screen and some of the folks in our chat room this fall out in Arizona, and which was a good time, though it nearly killed me. And so that's kind of the I ended up catching a hell of a virus because apparently it was already in my body, but flying kicked it off. That virus decided that it wanted to attack my liver, my kidneys, and that caused scarring, which sent some stuff around my body. And my wife is joking, she needs to get a t-shirt that says the clots didn't kill you, but I will, because there are moments that I had to ride 30 hours with the woman in a 2-day span here recently. And I said, you were going to kill me just trying to ride with you. She said, well, the clots didn't get you, so I will. And so that's been kind of her theme. But that I had some fun. Let's just say I feel like I'm too young to have gone through what I went through. So maybe there's some inspiration for Ben to kind of kick some crap into gear. But yeah, I let Brent Hershey know. I said, I just want to let you know that I had a really good time at FPAS this year. So, but it damn near killed me. And so I told him the story, and he said, dude, I am so glad you're healthy, but I'm glad you had a good time too.
No, so. For anybody that doesn't know about First Pitch, once a year, Baseball HQ throws a conference on in Arizona, generally around the first week of November, and it is the best time if you like fantasy baseball, if you like talking about prospects and about rosters and being involved in way too early drafts and just getting to chat with people. It's ridiculous how accessible everybody is. You can talk to anybody, and there's this feeling like, oh, I've seen them on a podcast, or oh, I've listened to something they've done, or oh, they've written articles that are really smart, and I don't have any. Everybody has a place. It's one of the most all-inclusive, just it makes me proud of the people that play fantasy baseball. Yeah. The people that are trying to do things there. Like, I love it. It's a lot of fun. So save your money.
And nobody big times you. No. Nobody big times you. I mean, I had a really good chat about my day job with the newspaper with Jonathan Mayo, because he's writing a story about that kind of has some things to do with my little town that I live in. And I just caught him after one of the sessions, and he stopped and signed for a few other people as he's continuing this conversation with me.
Right.
And this is one of the leading guys in our industry as far as prospectors go, and was not too big to chat life about with a guy from South Dakota. That's the cool stuff you experience out there.
Yeah, and if you show up, there's a chance that you will get to play Family Feud, which I'm not going to talk about. You had to be in the room when it happened. But you can ask Ben. The most fun that anybody had was when I hosted the feud. So you guys got to come down, play the feud, man. That was off the hook.
Yeah, so it was good times.
So glad you're not dead.
Yes. So let's get into what the big three next three is going to be. This is a fantasy baseball prospect. There are other places where it's they kick you out after, or they keep you in on their own determinations. We go by Major League Baseball. Your 50 innings, your 130 at bats. We usually talk about last year's big three, next three. Sometimes it's to kind of realize that we're stupid. And just like every other prospect evaluator, we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. But a lot of times it's fun to catch a guy on the next three that nobody else was talking about, and suddenly he's a top 20 prospect. And we were talking about him last year and nobody else was. That's kind of fun.
Right.
And then last but maybe not least, I was giving a list of about 30 guys with every organization after we did our big three next three last year. Instead of doing that, I'm going to have one 2025 draftee and one other player to know in each system. Robbie, if he uses uses the guy that I have listed, for a lot of systems I've put down 2 just because there's a guy that's like, oh, that one might be someone that Robbie uses. And so I have backups just in case, but that'll make it go much quicker.
So Ben, I've created what I'm calling the wedge player. So I will wedge one player in if you haven't brought them up as either like they're not a big 3 or a next 3, which there are like legitimate players when we get to the 3rd episode for that. And then for tonight, I wanted to just see what we did, how we paired up and any double ups. And if we're repeating names, then like you mentioned, we could throw an extra one in, but we don't need to go down the top 30 list of everybody in there in the respective organization that may or may not be able to help them this year or in 2029 when baseball resumes. But more fun than anything else I do in the off season is prep this big 3 next 3, because it lets me look at not just who's coming up, but also when we reflect back, as Ben mentioned, we can see the misses, and then you can kind of figure out like, well, what is that guy doing right now, and then look at the hits, of course, of a few players, as I've noticed in building sheets, including tonight, of like, like legitimacy has ruled the day, or we were on this guy or off on, whatever. And it's a lot of fun because it's very much like your fantasy rosters. But once we're done with these, I don't look at it again until the next, December when I start getting prepped again. So a few of these names I'm going, oh yeah, okay. But then there's other ones who it's like, hey, 3 years in a row, this guy's on the list. And when we get to Minnesota, I've got a 3-time prospect who I believe is now back, and I look forward to talking about him when we get there. But yeah.
Well, I think the whole thing is that you have to take this kind of approach with a little bit of humor and a grain of salt. Like, there are times when we are Nostradamus and we are in on somebody. I was in on Cal Raleigh. That was my guy, right? Like, I've been in love with that guy for forever, and like that panned out. But 95% of the time I'm Nostradamus. Like, I will say, man, Jonathan Clase is the next 2050 player every year. And that guy he's a great bench player. He's a good 4A player. He's never going to do what so there's far more Jonathan Clases in my closet than there are Cal Raleighs.
Oh yeah.
And say that feels awkward that I've closeted these players, but that's a whole different conversation for a different podcast.
Hey, there's a hockey show about that now.
Oh, I was going to I'm sure has a podcast about that. So we'll leave it to the expert professionals, like I said. So we're going to start with Milwaukee, right? Big 3, next 3. So I'm going to rotate between you two. I'm going to start with you, Robbie Baseball. I need to know. We're going to do big 3 first. So, Robbie, who is your first big 3 with the Milwaukee Brewers?
Milwaukee Brewers 2026 big 3. And I'm not going in specific order. I just got my 3 guys. I didn't do the rank.
Oh, we're just going to give all 3? Go ahead. Hit me with, we'll do 3 and 3 then. That's fine.
Well, I got to always just get rid of a catcher as soon as possible. So even if they make a prospect list, I got to say them quick and hopefully we forget about it. But I'm going to go with the correct pronunciation. Jefferson Quero.
Love Carroll.
I got him, 23. He was a 2019 J15 guy. He's got a big issue, which is a top catcher in front of him, which several decent prospect catchers seem to have them in front of them, and then other organizations really could use one of those 2 guys. But he should be a backup, I think. I kind of feel like that's what Milwaukee might do. There's still lots of time before, spring training. There's always tons of catchers that get signed because there's so many pitchers that, they need to throw to. But I feel like if they want him to continue getting regular at bats, he'll be in AAA. If they want him to become a major league catcher, he'll stick with the major league pitchers in the show. That's what I'm most interested in. But like, this is the time that he needs to be up and, making it happen.
I love that.
Yeah. I've got the most boring guy on the list, possibly of the evening, Jesus Mate, shortstop, second base. Yeah, we get it. I'm just not as impressed as everybody else is. I understand 40 stolen bases. I understand, like, swing and miss 15%. I wrote down that it's elite. I get it. He's really good. It's just not my favorite. Okay. And then I popped Logan Henderson on this because he only had 25 and a third innings of elite ERA, but 359 in AAA in over 100 innings last year makes me question exactly what he is when you level all that out. But more than anything, Milwaukee likes to develop these guys, and Corbin burns them. So let's see if there's more to be drawn out of Logan Henderson. He was a 21 fourth round pick, and he'll be I think he starts the year 23 and turns 24 in season. So yeah, I've got Henderson on the mound. I've got Cuero catching some of the time, and Jesus Mate probably in AAA, and everybody's just getting excited for that debut, except me.
Yeah,
fair enough. Ben.
Well, this is why I love doing this show with Robbie. I have one commonality, and of course it's Mate, because I really think Mate is going to move to third. He's got a really good arm. I could see him moving to third, and they need third right now. Yes, I understand everyone loves Caleb Durbin because he's the little engine that could, but Mate coming up and being just a holy crap elite player would be really fun. And I have Luis Pena. He was in the same IFA class with Mate. Did not play a second of complex ball last year, went straight to A ball and didn't look overmatched. Didn't blow everyone away that Mate did, but I think he's probably a corner outfielder in the future. But sub 6 foot guy, he might end up moving to second base too. But one of those guys that he's just he does everything right. I don't know that, Mate is a guy who has like 60s all across the board. Pena might have 160 on his entire sheet, but everything's a 50. And so that's the thing, is he's just got everything going, and then he plays at such a high level. Last but not least is the one of these that actually could stick it short, and that's Cooper Pratt. And really, really solid defensive shortstop. Folks aren't going to like it. This is a 6th round pick from high school in 23, and got up to, he's played all year last year in AA after being a 23 high schooler. So that's a pretty solid, pretty quick movement. The slash line doesn't look great, but in the Southern League, it's probably the most pitching friendly league in minor league baseball. He actually had an above average slash line, even though it was like 230, 318, 3 something. It was actually above average in the Southern League, which says a lot. But
is that the league that Arkansas Travelers are in?
Aren't they in Texas? I think they're in the Texas League.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Oh, the Texas League. Yeah.
Yep. So, but that's like, Birmingham and, Montgomery and all that, that league has just been notorious. And now the Braves are in Columbus with theirs. They're in the Southern League with their AA team. Now, some of that is that league didn't have great hitting prospects last year. So that probably brought down the overall average. But in general, just to keep an eye on the fact that he might be a 100 OPS plus type of bat, or maybe a hair below, but the defense is such that he'll play. And that's the whole thing, is this guy's going to make the major leagues. It's just a matter of whether he hits enough to be a starter or if he's going to be a bench guy.
Yeah. And I do want to give a little bit of pushback back on Mare. I think Jose Ramirez is contractually the only third baseman that's allowed to steal a lot of bases. So I can see him moving to second base or the outfield, but I don't think they're going to put him at third. I think that's too much speed at third base. So
yeah.
It'd be fun. I mean, for our game, if he ends up sticking in the majors and he was at third base, like, third base is a wasteland for stolen bases, and it's really shallow as a position at the top. So it would be nice to have some fresh blood and have them work out. So we got the next 3 going on. Robbie.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I mention the big 3 recap from last year, because last year I decided that there were 5 on Milwaukee. Caleb Durbin, Vinny Capra, because I forget what it was that Capra did. I feel like he had a hot spring training, then got DFA'd, or somebody else did that was older.
Something like that, yeah.
He was probably rebuilding a truck. You saw some
my
YouTube
God.
video and fell in love.
I'd love to collaborate with him on that. I had Jacob Mizrowski, Kiro last year as well, and Tyler Black. And I think that Black, I blame Govier primarily, and just like certain players that he's mentioned, and it's like a contractual obligation to mention them. But two of those guys are now regular major leaguers on the big three, or sorry, on the big league club, and they were from the big three. My next three from last year was Made, Pratt, and Yofiri Rodriguez. This year, the next three are, pronunciation, Ethan Dorches, Dorchies. He's a 19-year-old starting pitcher.
Dorchies,
10th round in 2024. He's 6'5", obviously, if I'm talking about him. Right-handed pitcher, which is surprising for me, not a lefty. But he had a really good pro debut for a high school drafted guy. Other Milwaukee prospect pitchers didn't get as much time, or I think we're fine, but I've talked about him in all the other ones, so I'm maybe saving them for the rest of the season. But in 82 innings last year, he had 88 Ks, 35 walks, which was, I consider that to be a heavy workload for a teen. I expect some high A later on this year, and perhaps if he is able to continue what he's doing, people are going to see him. We're going to start to see that name on lists, and then somebody who knows how will pronounce it, and then we'll all just pick it up. I've got Luis Pena on this list on account of, of course, as Ben mentioned, he was the big dog from the 2024 J2 class for Milwaukee, and he did at A-ball what Made did in high A. So there's a separation between the two guys of a level, but the production looked pretty good. Obviously, when you jump a level, you would expect to see something, go backwards a little bit. We'll see what Pena does this year. And I have him listed as infield. And I don't know if that's because I looked to see how many games he had played everywhere, but I didn't specify him at a spot. But I had Made at shortstop, second base. And if Ben likes the idea of him being at third, then I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how Keston Hiura gets back in this org. And I'm not finding a path based on these prospects. So, and the last guy I've got, which is fun for me, is Andrew Fisher, a 22-year-old first baseman who is at high A. He was last year's first round pick. And my comment on him, I'm not sure how many beers deep I was when I wrote it, was, may I predict this lefty power bat who chases a greater challenge, 3 different schools, because that's why you're chasing a better challenge. You're leaving every year. I'm predicting he'll finish this year in AAA. So I think it was a really smart pick for Milwaukee, almost like they needed the position, and he looked like he was an advanced bat to possibly fill in sooner than later, which is typically no major league team does that, but Milwaukee certainly doesn't when we talk so highly of their late round drafting. But Fisher might be somebody who catches on, if you understand the fishing and the catching.
Wow.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
wow. So painful.
Did
So
I
painful.
reel that one in, guys? Did I hook you?
Nothing
You
but
are a
net.
hooker.
Nothing but net. Yeah, no, and the chat agrees with Fisher, right? Fisher hits bombs, So that's interesting. That's I need to look a little closer at him. So Benjamin, what do you got for you?
Robbie kicked me onto my my backup for draftee because I had Fisher there. So last year, we'll go through my big 3. Last year, I had Mizrowski, I had Caro, and I had Made, and my big 3. And then my next 3, I had Cooper Pratt. Then I had Eric Batanti and Braylon Payne, and we'll just not talk about those two. No, they weren't bad; they just weren't good. Batanti, they tried to move Batanti to a new position, and he really struggled defensively. And I don't know how much that bled into the bat, but he really struggled. They tried to move him to like first base. That did not work at all. They played him some more back at third, and he looked okay. We'll see. Payne is just a really young guy that's a whole lot of tools, and it's just going to be probably a slower burn than I figured. looking at him last year, I thought that's a guy coming out of high school with a lot of tools and an outfielder and could move quickly. And yeah, he's probably going to take some time to turn into a baseball player. This year's next three, I have Caro in there. One of the things I thought is that, the way yes, I'm going to bring up the Braves, but the Braves had Contreras and brought him up and worked him alongside Murphy for a while. And then they did the same thing with Drake Baldwin last year too. And, it was, who the hell was it? Darno. Darno is who was there when they brought Contreras up. But they initially did that with William Contreras and then traded him. And then did the same thing with they did that with Darno and Sean Murphy for a while, and now they're supposed to be doing that with Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy. I think that's the type of setup that could probably work with Contreras and Caro, because Contreras has enough bat to DH some days. I don't know that Caro has quite that much bat. And since he had the injury he had to his hip, but he had a lower leg injury, and his movement wasn't all the way back last year. His arm was getting there. Accuracy is back, but he tore his labrum, and he's never been the same thrower behind the plate. So, he might be a good bat first backup type of catcher and be able to play a couple of days a week for that in that way. Second guy, Josh Adamczewski. If you were in Arizona, you got to see him learning the outfield, and he actually looked pretty decent out there. Definitely has one of the longest damn names in all of minor league baseball, because I feel bad for the poor lady that has to fit that onto the back of a jersey as she's sewing it around.
And why is
Robbie
it then that you think it's a woman that does this job?
I don't know. I'm just. I will say, in all seriousness,
I could be haberdasher.
That is not true. We still have all ours. Anyway, we've been keeping them around here. Maybe we're getting an influx from Minneapolis. I don't know. Anyway,
from the daycare. All right,
Adamczewski.
As long as we're not talking about the Braves again. We were talking about the Braves. And I was like,
Sam's good with all of it except the Braves. Just don't circle back to the Braves.
How did we get back to the Braves? So
Ben finds a way.
But
you said Mr. Alphabet.
The Brewers do very well drafting on the third day of the draft, and we've talked about this a number of times on here. Adamczewski was a 15th round pick out of high school in 23, and was really playing well until he had injury. But they had figured out that he kind of needs to move off the position. He was in second base, and he was okay there. I really think he's going to have a bat that fits a lot like a Placido Polanco type of hitter. That can be really sexy in a lineup that has elite guys like a Churio, like a Made, elite talent, like power speed type of guys. They have someone that is consistently hitting you 300 or high 200s and can move the ball around the park. That's a really valuable piece on a team like that. And then my third guy, this is why I don't have Andrew Fisher finishing as high next year. And it's only because Blake Burke is in the system, and I am a Blake Burke fanboy. There are a few people that hit in Double-A when he got to the Southern League. We just talked about how bad the Southern League was for offense. In his time in the Southern League, he hit over 300, and he hit 11 home runs in half a season in the Southern League. And he beats the shit out of a ball when he hits it. It is a ball stays hit when he hits it. But he is a DH defensively. So I mentioned on here a lot of similarity to Rhys Hoskins as far as like his upside. Not probably a guy that you're going to see hit 300 very consistently, but could be a 260 guy that gets on base enough and has big power. And Lord knows the Brewers have been seeking out power. They were willing to give freaking Andrew Vaughn a try just to see if they could unlock something at first base. So
didn't they?
They got way more than I ever would have thought of.
And more than the White Sox could.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Burke
what's going to happen when Robert Jr. gets a new home? Is he going to start playing baseball again?
Burke is probably going to be a AAA guy. I would say he's got a chance to play some major league ball next year. That's why another reason why I like him in my next three, because I always like to spotlight a guy that's going to make it. So are we ready for a name to know?
We're always ready for names to know.
So mine is going to be a right-handed pitcher that is not Robbie's style of guy. He's not very tall. He's kind of lean. 12th round pick in 2024, though. Tyson Harden was a college reliever. They moved him into the rotation, and he just can put the ball wherever the hell he wants.
He's old.
And he's maybe a 50s across the board with all of his pitches, but he has got 5 pitches and can just put them wherever he wants. That's going to play in the back of a rotation pretty quick and could play up from there. In all seriousness, watching him, his best 2 pitches are definitely his changeup and his fastball. Watching him, it reminded me so much of Freddie Peralta. I had to remember that this is actually a guy in the Brewers system, and they very well could develop him just like a Freddie Peralta. That's, it's kind of a perfect fit for system. Now, not sexy velocity by any means, but and then last year's draftee, to go with the 6th round pick last year, Daniel Dickinson. Watch it. He transferred to LSU. He was and had a really good year, won a national title, obviously. One of those guys that doesn't have any one tool that you're like, oh, that's a 60, even for future projection. And so that's why he kind of fell in the draft. But one of those guys, like I said, Brewers do really well with these guys that kind of have average tools across the board and pull that out of them. I mean, that's really what Caleb Durbin is. That's really what a lot of these players are, is they're average-ish guys, and they find a way to put them in the best spot to use their tools. And Dickinson's a guy that I could see doing that.
Okay. Robbie, do you have any names that we need to know?
I'm just going to remind everyone of Tyler Renz, who I did not put on the list, but love him from the 24 draft, and he is another slow burner. I'm just trying to see where he sits within the org. So it looks like I'm just looking on not sponsor Fangraphs very quickly to find out where he is, but he's a 18th rounder from 24. He's going to play this year at 19. And last year, I think it was 70 something innings, and he had high 60 strikeouts, but he is the learn as he goes guy. And I like him as a slow burn guy. Mikey V, how about them Orioles? Just kidding. We don't care, Mike. So
ouch. Ouch. Hey,
it's
guys,
nothing personal.
It is time.
It's totally just the team.
It is time, though.
It's business time.
Time to pull some ads. Oh,
it is time. So we would talk about the Colorado Rockies, but we all know they don't have any prospects worth rostering or talking about. So the Philadelphia Phillies. Sorry, I had to say it.
Wow.
That was so much fun. Robbie, I'm an ignorant kid that lives in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't have any respect for the Rockies as an organization. Help me help myself with some knowledge.
Okay. I will do that. I just have to remember to do the timestamp so that way I get to come back next week. So I'll start with the recap.
We love you, Gauthier.
Yeah, I'll start with the recap of last year's Big Three, because there is one home run on the list, one foul tip, and one DFA. So Drew Romo is the DFA, who I think is now on team number 4 as the offseason started.
Offseason, yeah.
He went from the surprise kind of kept off or booted from the 40-man, went to Baltimore, the Mets, and now where is he now? Shoot. He went somewhere else with good catchers. White Sox. Thank you.
White Sox, which is like, where is he going to play there? So, yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's just trying to sneak him through waivers. and he just keeps getting caught. So the other guy that I had that was not ideal was Seth Halverson. Now that's because he had a strong debut in 24, and then it looked like he was going to be the sneaky type closer guy on a team that would never be in a position to have closes. I did pick him up in 3 leagues. He had an injury, and then they just kind of went with a hot hand / nobody was in a safe situation anyway. And then the other one that I am going to go around, I've been aggressively approaching him in dynasty leagues, picked him up in 1 so far. I'll absolutely draft him in my home league where I was the runner-up last year with questionable tactics as far as like my lineup construction for the World Series that I lost. I don't think I tie. Isn't this silly, guys? You tie in your league championship and then you have a tiebreaker instead of some other, like secret category that you should do, or like how your bench does or something. It was very upsetting to me. Anyway, Chase Dollander is what I was trying to spit out before I went off topic. He is a road ace, and the dream is that he gets traded to any other major league team. And I am willing to, especially in like the keep forever dynasties, I am willing to roster him and pay a fair price. I traded Reese Olson in a league for Dollander and Kyle Karros. I needed a little double click on my Rockies because Reese Olson, I'm not convinced of his long-term ability to pitch healthy, but Dollander, I love the road results, and I'm not going to dream he's going to get better at home. He's the worst type of pitcher to be in the Rockies organization as far as like not a ton of movement on the pitches and fly ball pitcher. So that's not going to work in Coors maybe ever. And unless he's going to do something different at home, which will probably lead to some sort of injury, he's just going to be a road ace. And he was one of my big 3 from last year. This year, I have Cole Carrig, possible outfielder, a possible shortstop. Regardless, 46 stolen bases last year was really good, but he was in Double-A, and the rest of the line took a step back. But that's because, as Ben and I talked a lot about last year, that's a real testing ground for Rockies. And we also saw a few Rockies hitters and pitchers get the call up. Yes, Britton, I traded not one Rocky. I traded Reese Olson for 2 Rockies. Thank you very much. But Cole Carrig, I really like his potential, and knowing that when he gets to AAA, the stat line is going to rebound. I'm looking more at what he did at Double-A and thinking, what's this going to be in Major League Baseball, and how's that going to work for Coors and all those fun things. So next up, I still have Charlie Condon. I understand that, we thought he was going to be, I still have Charlie Condon. I know we thought last year he was going to be like the fantasy 1-1, but he didn't have an excellent debut after he signed. But I still think there's a real baseball player here. There's a first baseman here. There's the potential outfield. If, they start doing weird things and moving guys around. And then, of course, naturally, my king of the hill is future Hall of Famer Ethan Holiday. They needed to draft him. They needed to sell more jerseys, except for the people who had his dad's jersey and will just wear it and be like, it's the same, right, guys? It's the same. But this is like the raw everything, ceiling so high, I can't see it. And in Coors, why couldn't he be DJ LeMahieu, contact heavy, on the downside, right, guys? Right? We all agree he's a combination of cargo, Tulo, and let's go, right?
As long as we're not just comparing him to DJ LeMahieu and calling him a future Hall of Famer in the same sentence, like that's
too low.
I don't think, it is, because DJ LM is not ever going to be confused with an HOF. So
no,
not a
what
thing.
I'm saying is that he could be like DJ as a Rocky, but just continue it, like how Tulo got traded and then wasn't good. I think Holiday just remains a Rocky. He does it right. He'll sign the first 20-year deal.
I'm waiting for the next series of, if we're going to bring up old Rockies, I want to see Todd Helton again. I want to see Larry Walker again.
Well, let's see if they have children. If they have children coming up, they will be drafted. Even if they cut the draft down to 10 rounds, they'll sign after, and we'll see.
I'll take him as his dad. If he played as well or better than his father, he absolutely will go into the Hall of Fame. And if he plays for the Rockies for 12, 15 years, he'll go in as a Rocky.
It would be great. So my big 3, again, Carrig, Condon, and Holiday. I love them. I think they're all legit offensive guys. You'll notice there wasn't a pitcher last year. I struggled mightily to put one pitcher on the big and one on the next. I couldn't do it. And Ben, I hope you say Brody Breck is one of your guys. I just would love to hear somebody try to be positive about a guy who's so good, but the home park is just going to do so much damage. And after seeing it crush Dollander, I can't do it again.
Yeah. Who are your big three, Ben?
My big three last year, I had Dollander and just wanted to I pulled this up as Robbie was talking about him. Home.
ERA splits. Don't do it. Don't
98 ERA in 46 innings over 11 starts. Away, 3.46 ERA over 52 innings in 10 starts.
And
that's drastic. I don't know that I've ever noticed before a 6.5 run difference.
Right,
on a pitcher in their ERA between home and away.
With Dollander, he faced a bunch of teams twice, as you will, and it seemed like every time he faced them the first time, it was in Coors, and then he went to their place and schooled them, including the Dodgers, the second go around. So that's why I was like super into the idea of him developing more, but it's the Coors effect that I don't see the way in which he is ever Kyle Freeland effective for any period of time at home.
Yeah.
That's so, what I struggle with. But anyway, sorry.
My other two, and I will say, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back with this system. All three of mine made the majors. I had Dollander, I had Yanquiel Fernandez, and I had Adael Amador. And all three of those guys played in the majors last year. So if we want to talk about, at least your guy getting to the major leagues, sure, I did that. Not saying that any of them were exactly great, but hey, they made it. So this year I have Charlie Condon, and I will tell you, he had hand injuries that kind of jacked his power, but
can't say hand injury and jack in the same sentence. Continue.
Oh, well, we can if it's Reese McGuire. But he showed so much better in Arizona. Watching him take some cuts in Arizona, that power is there again. And God dang it. I have this written. I swear to God, I don't do this just because it's a Brave, but his offensive profile reminds me a ton of Austin Riley.
Sam, can you mute him? Can you mute him, Sam, please?
Literally, it's not my studio. It's him. I just look like I'm in charge. It's really this guy talking about the Brave.
No, but so I think it
reminds me of Austin Riley also. Go ahead.
Visual Median, the podcast known as the Visual Median.
Yeah, you and I are just being mean to Ben now. Sorry, Ben.
It's not nice.
It's nice to have somebody else bully him with me.
Thanks. So I think Condon, one of the big holes that you see in the Rockies lineup right now as they line up is at first base. And it would not surprise me if...
Excuse me? Troy Johnston. I mean, come on. Oh.
When you can't beat out Matt Mervis, that is a point in your life where you need to reconsider selling real estate. So I think he could be up early in the season. I don't know. We'll get into something here that I think might stall that just a bit, but he also is a legit option in right field. He's just not the athlete that you really need to be to cover the Coors outfield. Yeah. That's the issue. I have Ethan Holiday on there. They had to pick him when he was there. The Rockies needed to pick him when he was still on the board. Coming into the draft, I kind of thought this guy's going to go early, but I was hearing a lot of comments about him like you heard about Drew Jones just before he was drafted. That guys are like, I get that he's the big deal, but he's the big deal against high schoolers and hasn't really shown a whole lot against the elite high schoolers. And Drew had that reputation as well. And there's no doubt that Ethan Holiday has power. That guy has legit stud power. But he has some big time work to do as far as adjusting to pitches, and we'll see how he's teed off really well when he gets an 89-mile-an-hour fastball. You only get to face Ranger Suarez so many times in a year.
Hey. That's terrible. Ranger Suarez is a great pitcher.
Oh, he is, but he sits at 89. I'm just saying he's like the guy in the major leagues right now who's throwing 89. Kyle Hendricks is retired, folks. So there's like nobody right now in the major leagues who is sitting sub 90 and that you're going to face. So he's going to have to be able to get around on the 98s. And that's just what he'll have. There's work he's going to have to do. I think there are folks who think that he will be a 2028 starter in Colorado. I don't think he's going to move with that kind of speed. I think there's going to be some work. And then finally, my last one is Jared Thomas, another guy who was in the AFL. This guy is kind of a tool shed, really fun athlete, can play all three positions in the outfield defensively. In Colorado, he's probably going to be best in left. Just because I don't know that he has center field in Colorado kind of range, but in the minors, he's handled center field just fine. Swing and miss for sure, but this is, you talked about Jonathan Clase, 2040 type of guy here that could, legit for fantasy purposes. It may come with a 230 and 200 strikeouts, but a 2040 is a 2040. And it's just a fun athlete that I think he obviously needs a little more refinement, but he's a fun guy. So are we ready? That's the end of my big three. So we can kick into the next three at this point.
Yeah. Robbie.
Yeah. Let's keep talking about the Rockies, please.
I feel a little bit better about their prospects like this. I feel like I've learned something. Teach me more.
I've got the next three from last year to tell you about, and I don't really want to bring up the 2024 guys, but I will, just because we all need to have that reality check. So Yanquiel Fernandez in 2024 was one of my next three, but then I also had Kevin Hidalgo, which was J2 shopping or J15 shopping, and then Mason Albright, if you'll remember, that was the Angels lefty prep pitcher that they got. I forget what the trade was. Maybe it was Grichuk or something. Remember when the Angels were going to try to win that 1 week at the trade deadline, and then they cut everybody to get below the cap?
Mm-hmm.
Mason Albright ended up in Colorado from that, but he was a prospect pitcher that didn't make it happen. Last year, I took Kyle Karros, who is now no longer a rookie, those MLB bloodlines. Yeah. And until the signing, as was mentioned earlier here from our boy Britain, of Willie Castro for the 2-year deal, it was looking like Karros was going to get to play third base all of the days. And now it looks like it's up to spring training washout where Karros actually will be, and if he may end up in AAA with further seasoning. Charlie Condon was one of the other guys for me for last year, and then Robert Calise as well, who was, I think, a 22 J15. But this year in 2026, I am bringing to the table a trio, a plethora, if you will, of talent, beginning with Ethan Hedges, who was drafted in the 3rd round of 2025, a righty third baseman with a history of good average, but also a rocket arm. He could be a pitcher if he can't get it right at the plate, guys. That's a double threat. Thank you very much, Rockies. We also have
Ben. You almost killed Ben right there.
Let's all watch him cough. The next guy up is outfielder Max Bellier, 22-year-old. He was a comp round 74th overall. This is a lefty outfield power and average hitter. The bad debut stat line might make it look easier for him to be able to be acquired either later in your drafts because he didn't have a great debut, or if he was already drafted, you could potentially pick him up because they could be a little aggressive with him, knowing that he's a 22-year-old already. and they had a pretty solid draft class of guys. They're all going to need to filter at different levels. Perhaps they think he's an advanced bat. He'll move up. And if he goes to Hartford, as we've talked about, the line might be the least impressive of the locations he could be at as opposed to going to high A. And this could still be a guy to buy. The final guy, and I am going to do it, and I am hurting myself, but I believe the Rockies draft a lot of really good pitchers. They just stay with the Rockies, and that's the problem. But at some point, they might trade him. They signed Michael Lorenzen, guys. They're giving him $8 million this year. And Kyle Lorenzen's the guy who said, when he was in Detroit, he said about Reese Olson, he said, this is a guy who's going to punch a lot of tickets. And you know what? I think he's going to say the same thing about JB Middleton. Okay? He was the second round pick by the Rockies this year. Fastball, it moves. Slider looks like a cutter. Okay? And a changeup fades. That could work, right? We all agree. Everybody agrees. Everyone's waving. You can't see it on the podcast. They're all like, no, thumbs up. Everybody thinks that this could be the guy. But if he's not the home ace, maybe he's another road ace. He's 21, not a 22-year-old. So I don't know that they're going to get the big push that they tried to do with Sean Sullivan and it didn't work, that they did do with Dollander. But I think this could be like a 2028 type guy that we could reasonably see, possibly late 27 if he's doing well. And again, let's say Hartford's the test as far as like hitters and things, but realistically, he's got to be able to pitch to conditions. And I just think he's a really good pitcher. He's just in the wrong organization, but I'm choosing to believe he might be able to compete with Coors based on the fact his pitches all seem to move.
Okay, well,
my name is Robbie Baseball. Thank you for your time.
For your TED Talk. Yeah. People believe in Santa Claus still, and that doesn't mean it's going to actually happen for you Christmas Eve. So,
I got a blizzard out that window there.
I would have. I do want to say about the Willie Castro signing is that I don't believe that he's going to settle in at any position. He's probably going to 5-6 times a week, and he's going to be all over the place. And so there is still a chance that Karros can play some third base for him, right?
And he absolutely, like, Willie Castro after being traded was not like Willie Castro of the Twins that we were all like, oh, look at this guy, like doing all the things. He was not good, and he might go to Coors and not be really good in Coors. We've seen other players. Kyle Farmer, I think, was the guy last year who went and just like faded away. I don't know if it was injury or not, but there's always guys who I think go there thinking good thoughts of like, batting, like hitting lines and things like that. And it doesn't come together. So,
well, and I think that a lot of it has to do with you're playing at elevation and your body just responds a lot differently to things that you're used to at lower elevations consistently. And so it's so tough to be long-term successful in Colorado. And I'm really curious about the quality and the quantity of what they were doing in those late 90s to mid 2000s. That's so much different now, other than the owner probably wasn't as involved in what they were doing. He seems
baseballs. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Well,
then the humidor took care of that.
Yeah, we need to move the Rockies to like Oklahoma or something. So, Ben, next 3.
Okie dokie. Well, Robbie went around and decided to talk about both of the guys that I had highlighted for my draft pick thing. So
there's lots of Rockies to choose from, Ben. There's lots of Rockies.
I have another one that I was looking at anyway, so it kind of works out. Because I wasn't going to talk about him otherwise. But so I am now for the third year going to mention my guy with the Rocky system. And so last year I had Charlie Condon, I had Cole Carrig, I had Sean Sullivan, and then I threw a fourth in there because I have to talk about him, and that's the guy I'm going to talk about now, and that is Sterling Thompson. And Sterling is a guy that they got in 2022 CBA pick. He's had injuries along the way, but he's a guy who just kind of can fall out of bed and hit a single. Has really solid numbers on the swing, like the swing metrics. So there absolutely could be a big time power season. He's just done it mostly to the gaps so far in the minor leagues, which, hey, if you can hit the gaps well and you come up to Colorado, you're going to be okay. The big issue I see here is I don't know that he's truly a corner outfielder. I think he might be a first base defensively guy. And that's why I was talking with Condon. It might depend on something. I think Thompson does something and could potentially he could be a guy that takes over first base on opening day with a strong spring. But just a guy that I've really liked as a hitter for quite a while. Then we'll go back to another 2022 pick who's been injured a lot, and that was their second round pick. And I am going to get you a pitcher, Jackson Cox. Again, behave. So he struggled in his first few starts in 2025, but over his final 19 starts, it was a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio and a 2.31 ERA. That'll do. Especially for a guy who really hadn't been able to put in a full year since he was drafted in 22. 5-pitch mix. He's right on that 50-55 control. This is a guy who could profile as like a number 2, number 3 starter if he can stay healthy. And one of the things that was a big deal last year is for the first time in his pro career, he was keeping the velocity in the 6th inning. And if he can keep doing that, that'll be what triggers whether or not he's something. And I wrote this all out last week. So on the Rockies, I finished the rest of it later. But my third guy is Robbie Baseball, who's a 2024 IFA signing for them. Switch hitter, big time speed, above average defensive skills, probably at second, third, all the outfield spots. I wrote on here, could fit a Willie Castro role and move to the upper minors quickly. He's 20 this year. Then lo and behold, they go sign the real Willie Castro. But I really do think that Brito is a guy to watch for that kind of a role. And you're seeing guys like that pop up around the league quite a bit more with the Dubons, with the Castros, and Kyle Farmer actually came and was a Rocky last year. There's guys like that play around the league quite a bit now that are able to fill in for a week as a starter and not hurt you.
Right. And we had Dylan Moore in Seattle for 8 years.
Oh yeah. Moore is a great example. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are identifying those players a lot more as being valuable, or at least major league teams are identifying those players a lot easier.
And
so
Ben, we actually talked about Brito last year when we did the Arizona Complex League MVP talk. If you remember, we did that one. It was 2 podcasts. It was between him and Kenya Martinez, a pitcher for San Francisco, and his 368 average for Brito. We didn't strike his name out, so it looks like they may have both won. That seems terrible.
I don't know. Could be.
But anyway, we did talk about him.
So my name to know, I'm going to bring up a guy that I've highlighted, or that I actually had on my last year's big 3, and that was Sean Sullivan, 2nd round pick in 23, left-handed pitcher, comes from a goofy arm angle and had that big year in, was it high A, I think, in 23. He was with Dollander. They started out.
Yeah, his draft year, he was better.
Yeah, he was a lot better. And then last year started out with, he had hip surgery in the offseason. And so he started out not 100%. And you guys remember Ted Lilly pitching? The way he would crossfire, step towards first base and then fire across his body. Sullivan does that, but he brings it almost at like Randy Johnson height as far as like where the arm release point is, except he's throwing 88, and he just gets really unique movement on his pitches. And, I mentioned that he's a lot like Ranger Suarez in his approach.
It's weird that you were just mocking Ranger Suarez, and now here you are with Sean Sullivan saying it's okay. I mean, the contradictions.
I was not. I was not mocking him. I was saying that Ranger is like the only
Mid-season
guy in the
form
majors
for you
who
two.
throws upper 80s. But that is, I think he's got the ability to be a strong pitcher. I don't think he has that ability in Colorado. Unfortunately, I think he's going to need to go somewhere else in order to realize his potential. But he is in Double-A last year, and we've talked about Hartford is like their only league that, or their only team that is kind of a neutral level team.
Mhm.
That everywhere else it's a hitter friendly spot. That's where, I mean, he really excelled once he got healthy. 6% walk rate, 24.2% K rate. You'll take that all day long. So
I think it also just goes without saying there's two things before we go to the Phillies. One, every Rockies pitcher needs to pitch for a different organization if they're going to have success.
Ideally, yes.
And number two, and I want to be real. I mean this. Like, Colorado Rocky fans are some of the greatest fans that the game has. That the Colorado Rockies have one of the best fan bases in all of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And games in Colorado is wonderful. It's a beautiful stadium. They really do the fan experience right. Like
Ingers, the mascot.
When I make fun of Colorado, it comes with a little bit of sadness in my heart. It's not like when I'm making fun of the Angels, where like, yeah, you guys can have a bad on-field product, and I don't want your front office to be smart. Like, it's not about that. I love the Rockies. So.
And they do have the same number of World Series as the Mariners, right?
Oh,
yeah. No, trust me.
Actually, let's be honest. They have more World Series appearances.
Everybody does. Everybody does.
So
they got close. So you guys were wondering if I had any other throw-in names. Thanks for asking. No one.
Well, I was going to say my draftee here. I still have
say your draftee.
So my draftee is their 8th round. Was he 8th round pick this year?
First baseman?
Yes, Tanner Thatch.
Yeah, there you go.
And big old boy, 6'4", and he's 2 1/4 at least. That might be about 15 pounds shy.
He's the Bryant Reeves of Major League Baseball.
Yes, he's just a big old boy, and he swings hard. I don't know that he's really a first baseman long term, but he's a fun swing when he makes connection. The ball really flies. The issue is the making connection part. And he chases a lot of pitches to get there. So, I mean, it is important, but I mean, we are talking about the Rockies. So, I mean, if he can really hit the crap out of the ball, he's probably got a chance to hit 260 in that outfield. So, I don't know. He's an interesting bat just to kind of follow for a little bit here.
And he could be a guy with a big home run total. So everybody, and in certain ballparks, a 250, 260 average, that you put him in Hartford and all of a sudden it's 180. So that might be the stumbling ground for him too, right? If he's hot and they move him. But anyway, everybody was really wondering who else I had. And Thatch was one, so I don't need to go with it. But last year we spoke about Connor Eaton, a 6'3", obviously lefty, 210, solid guy. He was drafted in 24 in the 6th round at high A last year, which is a hard league. Pardon me. Spokane, 356 average in 23 starts, 121 in the 3rd innings pitched, 125 Ks. Then he went to Double-A at the end of the year, and it wasn't quite as good, but he did have 24 Ks in 18 and 2/3 innings. And I think he could be something. You were wondering, Rob, you've got to have more in the tank. What about the hitters? Yes, but first let me give you one more pitcher, and it could be their SP45 this year, McCade Brown, who went from Double-A right up to the show and was absolutely overwhelmed. But he was doing really well in Double-A. So I don't see the need other than like another one of those Michael Lorenzen type signings to push him back because they've got what is it? It's not Falter. Who's the Feltner? Will I think be back at some point this year? I think he's hurt right now, and he'll be back at some. But anyway, in the meantime, you need this McCade Brown, and he's an interesting one to pick up. Still currently a rookie, although he pitched 25 innings, and then Ashley Andujar, who's a shortstop prospect who was pretty good in the DSL, then went to Complex and was also pretty good in Complex. He'll play this year. I think started at 18, turned 19. He's another one of the deep dives to look out for. These are the ones that are hard because they can continue to look to have a good stat line, but things need to develop like power and the ability to not swing at balls out of the zone. So we'll see what's up with those guys. But this was great, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys. See you in April.
Yeah. You didn't talk about the number 1 Rule 5 draft pick.
Oh yeah,
RJ Pettit.
Right.
Who
Sorry.
came from?
Yeah, El Tigres.
He was a Tiger.
You're right. I did ignore the immediate payoff guy within the Rockies.
Yeah.
It's true. But that's because they're so deep, Ben, which, like, to Sam's point earlier of, could they not field 2
what
teams?
The heck, dude? Britain is just being mean to poor Robbie.
This is first we were beating up on Ben. Now we're coming after Robbie.
It's like the internet's not safe. Am I right, guys?
I mean, I tell this to my teenage daughters all the time. So, yes.
Well, they don't have to talk to me, Ben. It's their choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So that takes care of one unimportant team and the Brewers. So now we can move to the Phillies. This was the most successful of the 3.
The Fighting
Phillies.
Phillies.
They were the Brewers had the best record, and the Phillies were the second best.
I'd never believe
in
that.
all of baseball.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And where were the Rockies? You know what?
Rockies were the worst.
Past, guys. Let's look ahead.
We're alternate. Okay, so we can explain this for future reference.
Sure.
We're alternating best record, worst record, best record, worst record. So next pod, we are going to have 2 of the 3 worst records in the league, and then the 3rd best record,
which will be the White Sox and the Nationals, and the 3rd best team last year were the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's how those get set up that way. Just so folks understand.
That's right. So we're gonna bring it home with the Phillies. We're gonna try to wrap this up. You guys get 30 seconds.
And this is one of the shittiest
Sam, you sound like my wife.
in the league. Okay, anyway, no.
Hey, it doesn't matter how long we go as long as we get there.
Pumps per minute, right? Is that a thing you got? Is that just me? That's okay.
It's Canadian.
Okay.
It's a Canadian.
Yeah, it's a Canadian thing. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
South of the border.
Okay, so 2024 big 3. I had Justin Crawford, Mick Abel, and Griff McGarry. Remember Griff McGarry, everybody? And then in 2025, I was like, okay, I'll put Andrew Painter back because it looks like he's going to pitch. Aiden Miller's really good. And then, you know what? I'm not done with Mick Abel, so he's back on the list. 2026, I am repeating Justin Crawford. Which was my 2024. I am repeating Aiden Miller, and I am adding Dante Nori, who I think is very good. I believe Canadian. I think that's right.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about him.
Canadian-born, Michigan high school.
Elite OBP, which fantasy, we love it. Because whether we play in an average league or we play in an OBP league, or we're psychopaths who have, OPS tacked on, this is a guy who's going to be able to help you. He's an outfielder. The Phillies are not set in outfield. It looks at this exact moment in time like Justin Crawford could be an everyday type player, or if you want to say 5 out of 6 games, he could at least appear in them this year. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing. That's a great thing for Justin Crawford, but he is a contacty guy, doesn't have the necessary man strength, but looks like he could be a platoon guy with Marsh. But he had such an amazing average last year in AAA that he looks great. But Dante Nori, he's speed. He's got an average amount of average, but that could play if it doesn't have the dips. And the lack of power is the concern I have for him. But that's why I was harping on elite OBP. And I know people like to say things like power is the last thing to develop. So let's throw that tag on Nori, that he's looking at a little bit of a launch angle improvement. He needs to bulk up. He needs to be in the best shape of his life when he heads to spring training. You say the thing, and I think you tag that to Nori, and all of a sudden we got a real player here.
Okay. I like it. Ben, who are your big 3 with Philly?
Well, I am going to be really freaking boring because I'm going to have the same this year as I had last year. So I'll just read off who I have this year. The same exact three. I have Aiden Miller, who 2023 first rounder, legit top 10 prospect in the entire game at this point. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that they want to do this with two spots in their lineup with what Philly has for hopes this year. But it wouldn't surprise me if they move Alec Boehm at some point this year to give third base over to Aiden Miller. He could be, he's shown me that he could actually be a starting third base or a starting shortstop. Like that was something in question when he was drafted. Absolutely. I think he would be a very good third baseman. I think in the very end, what you've been getting out of Trey Turner could be a very similar look to what you get from Miller, kind of that 20 to 25, both in home runs and steals. I don't think we're talking peak Turner where it was, 20-50, but 20 to 25 in both home runs and steals. I think that's what Miller could potentially do, which again, maybe we're going to have a renaissance at third base, Sam. We're going to start getting 20 steal guys at third base. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Remember when catcher was a very shallow position 4 years ago, and now it's ridiculously deep? Like everything comes in cycles. I'm sure in a couple of years, third base is going to be where you get, you have your starting third baseman, your corner infielder is a third baseman, one of your guys in utility is a second base third baseman, and all of them steal 25 bases.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned a bunch of the Rockies. You guys all heard that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I took notes.
Okay, great. I think this is recorded. You can go back.
Yeah. So my second guy is Andrew Painter. The big issue this year, he got his velocity back, but the fastball was 100% in like the dead zone, kind of sitting right in the middle of the zone. Well, not so much in the middle, but basically he was getting zero for movement, the way that you want to get movement on a fastball if you're going to be able to get it by major league hitters. But in the meantime, the guy has developed extra pitches. He's got a 6-pitch mix at this point and still can command the ever-loving crap out of the ball. If he can figure out how to use that, hey, I've still got 98 here, and use it as more of a show me pitch and pitch off of the rest of the stuff, that could be a really solid pitcher. That could be an interesting path for him. I don't know. I hope they don't throw him in the opening day rotation because I think he needs some time to pitch.
Who's replacing Ranger Suarez?
Well, that's the thing. And I think he's probably tagged right now for that. I don't know that but like I said, I don't know for his health. I don't know that it's going to really help. It is possible
because Walker Buehler washed up onto the Phillies team and then was apparently a good teammate and things of that nature and pitched less terrible, that they might decide to bring Buehler back as a bridge type guy on something reasonable. I don't know what reasonable would be for him if 5 million's insulting or if 5 million's the right number, but the closer we get to spring training, the fewer options Buehler's going to have. And he's already familiar with the Phillies and they with him. Perhaps that could be a reunion that ties it over a bit.
They were going to go after Bichette, and their pivot on that seems to have been Real Muto and a starter. They seem to be talking with the free agent starters that are left. The name I've heard tied to them a lot is Zach Gallen, which would be really that would be kind of an interesting.
That'd be fun.
I don't know. I think that we'll have to see. I'm not sure if I like that or I hate it, but it's somewhere in there.
I think
I don't know if it's
a year deal with him. I mean, he's not coming off of seasons where you have to worry about him long term, and that's the kind of deal I think the Phillies want to do. 3 for 75, 3 for 60, somewhere.
My issue there is I just don't know what he's got. What he's still. I mean, there was such a big drop this last year in his raw stuff. If I'm the Phillies, that's a guy I'm signing as a 5th starter and hoping for better.
Right.
And is he going to be happy to take money that I would prefer to give to the type of money I would like to give to a fifth starter?
Right.
That's going to be the question.
Well, then you also have Chris Bassett. They're still veteran pitchers.
There's very solid guys that could come in and be a 4 or 5 for them and eat innings and do well that are still on the market. But it sounds from all the word that you're hearing is that they are pivoting to getting Real Muto back in, which they've done already.
Yep.
And then they're now reopening talks with a lot of those veteran pitchers, which could be good for Painter. That could be a good thing for him because then he might get to open the year in AAA and earn his way into the rotation.
Right. Is Gomber a free agent?
What's that?
Is Gomber a free agent?
No, he signed with the Cubs.
Yeah, I think so.
I've been watching, obviously, former Rocky.
Justin Crawford is my third, and Crawford's got 2 elite skills. He can make contact as well as pretty much any prospect out there, and he runs like the frickin' wind. But I would never trust him in center field. He's not that kind of a defender, kind of like his father, actually. Carl Crawford was one hell of an athlete, but don't put him in center field. That was not a good idea.
Right.
But if you're okay with not having that kind of profile or you're okay in your lineup with having a low power profile in left field, he could do very well for you. I think that that's a really good fit, and that's where the Phillies might do well. But I don't know if they're willing to take that based on the other holes in their lineup at the moment. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper do cover up quite a bit of things, though. You can cover up a lot of lineup holes with players like that in your lineup.
Yeah, well, that's 80 home runs potentially every year.
Which I got to say, if I could have a dream scenario in my mind, it would be having Justin Crawford bat ninth for the Phillies and be on base all the time while they're trying to pitch to Kyle Schwarber. That would just be freaking unbelievable to watch at a game. I don't know how much you'd get the green light, though. That's the only worry I'd have. But that Schwarber's going to get 6 pitches at bat, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities to steal if they let him, which would be a really fun thing to do. But anyway, so that's my big 3.
All right.
He took more than 30 seconds, just so we're clear.
You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. He's an animal over there.
There you go. Well said. So my next 3 and the evolution of my next 3, I once had in 24, I had Andrew Painter, Weehoop Han, and Niku Puaka Greco. And Greco then was out for the whole season. So last year I demoted Justin Crawford from big 3 to next 3 because Ben hated him so much that I'm like, well, maybe because he doesn't hit home runs and he can't play D, I should take my foot off the gas. So I did, but I am back and my foot is firmly pounded to the ground. Choose my words wisely, but that's where Crawford was last year for me. Dante Nori was a next 3. He's been promoted, and Mavis Graves, the 20-year-old 6th-round pick from 2022, was there after a stellar 24 season. Thank you. And this year, I've got Gage Wood, and here's the scouting report I've got on him. He's the no-hitter pitcher from the College World Series. Do you all remember that? The College World Series. That's when we thought he should be drafted. And what I also have is he needs innings on his arm, but the results could be huge here for the Phillies because he was drafted in the first round. I forget where he was, 20-something, somewhere in there. I just have 25 first round. But he slipped when we had done our mock draft and things like that. I remember we were talking about how people had him kind of going all over, and then he ended up slipping back to this point with the Phillies, which this could be a huge win for him, but he does need to actually pitch and just have innings on that arm. So next guy up for me, I went with a right-handed pitcher who had an A-level debut. Now I'm going to go with a left-handed pitcher with no debut. He was their 6th-round pick in 2025, James Talon, but it's Tallon, unless I spelled it wrong. And I think he could be more of an impact relief pitcher, which is weird to promote a prospect as a potential RP, but he could be stretched out and maybe he becomes a stealth pickup type guy. Even guys who pitch in the pen for multiple years, Clay Holmes, end up becoming starters overnight, sign big deals, and help teams win or not because he's a Met. And then the other guy that I've got is a right-handed pitcher, Sean, not older, but Sean Youngerman. He was a 4th-round pick in 2025. Geez, I went with all the 2025 guys. Not enough innings totaled in 2025 at Oklahoma to qualify for the national leaderboards, but he would have been at the top if he had continued what he was doing. I think this could be more of a slow play for Philly, but I also like the fact that they just dumped a whole bunch of arms in, which I think I had in our notes. Let's try to scroll up very quickly. Oh my God, I'm down so far. The 2025 draft, Ben or Stam, if you didn't look, don't now. How many pitchers did the Phillies start the draft with in a row? How many did they take?
I think I looked at the sheet before, but I think it's like 8 or 9.
And Sam's on mute. Classic podcast move. Mute yourself.
I don't know how to work a computer, guys. I'm lost. There were 9. Nine. That's what
14
you wrote.
Total pitchers taken. So
it's like the Angels one year drafted all pitchers.
Yes. And it worked out great. Look at them now. Nick Madrigal, I believe, is an Angel because they don't need pitchers. And next year, Madrigal will do the Keston Hiura thing and he will be a Rocky.
Love it.
That's when it all comes together for me. Him, Jose Suarez as Rockies. I guess I'm going for a weekend series if that happens. I'm going to have to fly to Coors. But anyway, so they've got Wood, Talon, Youngerman, and a ton of pitchers. So I really like the idea of the reset here for the Phillies' depth at pitcher. And we're going to get to see guys who over the next, 2 seasons will actually become the guy, right? They'll be the next one. And Painter and Abel for years and years were the guys for the Phillies that were going to come up and do great things. Abel, of course, was traded to Minnesota, and I'm not sure we'll get to talk about him. I'm sure this offseason what that role might be realistically after the Twins traded everybody except the pitchers we all thought they would trade this offseason. Maybe it'll happen by the time we get there. But anyway, Wood, Talon, Youngerman.
I love them. And I think that, Philly has always been a team that goes out and gets free agent bats. They've just they're built to spend like a big city club and they go out and get talent. And so I love that they really went pitching heavy on that draft. My wife's from Philly, so I root for them every now and then. I'm hoping they do well. So next 3 for you.
Classic muted himself. My God, you can tell we've gone on too long, guys.
My lead?
Double mute.
All right, there we go.
Into a muted microphone. You're like, I want to be muted.
Yeah, I'm jealous. That's what it was. All right. So last year, my next 3 was Eduardo Tait, Griffin Burkholder, and Dante Nori. I have Gage Wood on my next 3, and we've talked about him a little bit already. Unfortunate for Phillies fans, he reminds me a lot of Griff McGarry. The pitch makeup and things, and now Robbie's muted
on purpose. I love it, Robbie. I love it. That was great.
Smart Alec.
Where did McGarry go? Washington, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week then.
Yeah, McGreevy's Lewis.
Yeah, McGreedy is the St. Louis. Anyway, yes, and
keep going.
And apparently, like Joe says, we are on the Plaza podcast where we talk about a lot of wood. Hello. All right. So my next guy is one that I've had on here, or I've talked up quite a bit. Carson DiMartini, 4th rounder in 24 out of Virginia Tech. He did struggle once he got up to AA. The defense has been very good since he moved to third base. One of those gamer guys. He stole 45 bases, and I don't know that I would put more than a 50 on his speed. So kind of one of those guys who's smart enough to steal like that on catchers and pitchers that aren't paying attention. But I put down that I could see him developing into a Bill Mueller or Jeff Cirillo type of player at the top end. which that could be a very solid player. I don't know that that's where he gets completely, but I've always liked him as a player. Dante Nori's my other one. My big thing, I think he's kind of your Crawford light. Very similar profiles, but not as much contact ability as Crawford brings to the table. He's also got a very weak arm, so he's got to stick in center, or else he's going to have a tough role in either corner trying to use, throw with that arm. But very good chance that he's in AAA at some point this coming year. So
yeah, he was in the AFL last year, so a little bit of a test for him there at the highest level. Highest minor league level.
The name to know I have on here is the guy that I had in my next three last year, and that's Griffin Burkhalter, who was a second rounder in 24, and he has played 35 total games in his minor league career so far because of hamstring injuries. Huge raw power and speed type of guy, and he showed really well as a center fielder in the few games he had. He's going to certainly be the type, he's going to A-ball this year, but could be the type of guy that once he gets some games under his belt, it clicks and you see him in AA by the end of the year. And like I said, if the defense is what it could be, this could be a guy that the Phillies really try to push, because they'll actually get some offense along with defense in the outfield. And Lord knows they haven't been getting that out of any of they either get offense or they get defense, not both. Nick Castellanos and Johan Rojas, we're looking at you. And then Robbie mentioned a couple of their draftees, Wood being one of them, but the other draftee that I'm going to mention is Cade Obermueller. And yes, I'm going to go with the upper Midwest boy from University of Iowa.
What are the odds?
He was their second rounder.
Corn-fed.
Corn-fed boy. There you go. Left-handed pitcher. Another guy with a really goofy release angle, low release. He's got a sinker, sweeper, and a hard curve that he uses. And from that low angle, it's just really weird looking. I remember watching him pitch against the Gophers in a game, and there was a right on left, a good matchup, and I can't remember who the hitter was, but it was one of the Gophers' better hitters last year, and he looked like he thought that ball was going to break to his knees, and the ball ended up at his chest because of the angle that it comes out of his hand, and it just completely fooled him, and he looked like an idiot swinging at it. But he probably has more of a back-end starter type, but the type of guy that if they could get his command to tick up, could really push into not trying to throw out one-for-one comparisons, but the way that Chris Sanchez bumped up when he really nailed his command. He was always a control over command type of pitcher. And when he really started to nail his command, Chris Sanchez really played up. That's something that we could do too.
I thought you were going to say Greg Maddux or Steve Avery. So I'm glad to hear.
Or Ian Anderson.
But Burkholder, I want to say, when he was drafted a couple of years ago, he was one of those names that people were chattering about, and he just has not been able to stay healthy. So glad you brought his name up, especially if you play dynasty baseball. He might be somebody that you look at to get on the cheap this year, because if he stays healthy, he could do some things. I agree with that. Robbie, do you have any names to know?
I have a name. This is a deep dive. If you need a lot of roster space for this one, but I've got a guy that he's not tall enough, but he is a lefty, obviously a pitcher, and the name is amazing. Zuher Yusuf, ZuherYousuf. Okay, 3 levels last year. Name.
What is a Z?
That is the Queen's English, you ignorant bastard.
No shit, we say Z.
Yeah, and there's a whole Canadian commercial. It's pronounced Z, not Z.
We're not Canadian. 2 L's, 2 Z's. I've never heard that before. for.
We are
Actually,
here
I was
north
gonna
of
say,
the water. We are, and we don't even apologize for it. We're not Surrey. All right. Anyway, let's get back to Yusuf.
What
here.
is all this about? Gosh.
Take off, you hoser.
He was DSL, he was complex, and then A ball is where he finished last year. So he had a 165 combined ERA. He had 12 games, eight were starts, 49 innings, 55 strikeouts, 19 walks, 1.1 whip, and it looks good. I was trying to find out the pitch stuff because I didn't bother to write it in the show sheet. That would have made too much sense. But now I can't find where I was looking at the pitch mix because that's what I thought was really fun about him. But regardless, he is you need plenty of roster space to have a guy like this because he's only 5'10". And I'm saying only 5'10" because that's hard to keep developing at an elite level. And I'm assuming he'll start this year at A ball for the Phillies. And as we just mentioned, they have 14 new pitchers in their system in addition to Yusuf here. So I like him as like a, watch list type guy for sure.
Well, and not everybody who's 5'10" doesn't do well. Roy Oswalt, Pedro Martinez, those were both.
Well, Marcus
shorter.
Stroman's always my example for that, of a guy who
Sure.
didn't end up with issues.
There's another one.
Because of the size, because height doesn't measure heart. And that's a deep cut for anybody who knows that was like a clothing line that he put out. And I was still waiting. I am still waiting for Stroman to sign with the Rockies because he should have been there like 4 years ago when the Jays traded him to the Mets. He should have went to Colorado then. That ground ball will play. What could have been. Anyway, Yusuf is my guy.
Okay. I like that. And maybe we need to have a Canadian version of this broadcast where we do say 2 L's, 2 Z's. I mean,
Gauvreau is on my soil.
Sam, you're kind of you're telling on yourself a little bit because on this particular podcast, anytime Robbie kicks it off or Gauvier kicks it off and he remembers, we do say 2 L's, 2 Z's. So
respect.
I've never heard it, and this isn't the first time I've listened to this one. So
I'm just giving you crap too.
I feel it. Now you're picking on me, man.
I was just saying,
take it out on that guy right there.
How the turntables have turned.
Seriously, fool me once, can't fool me again.
Yeah, that's right.
So
there we go.
That is a lot to know. We have learned a ton about the Brewers. We've learned a ton about the Rockies. We've learned a ton about the Phillies. We've learned a ton about Benjamin Chase and his love of the Braves. I mean, this is good.
Who knew?
Who knew? I know.
Knew?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Is there any last things or thoughts you want to share?
No, it's been too long. This one's way too long.
Yeah. I will say it's MLK Day today in the United States. If you have not taken the opportunity to go find the video of Bob Kendrick talking about the impact of Jackie Robinson on Martin Luther King Jr., it's a really cool piece that he put together at one point. Go on YouTube and just search for Martin Luther King Jr. baseball or something like that is how I got it to pop up. Bob Kendrick is a stud as far as baseball history and, specifically Negro Leagues history, but he really did a great piece on that. And, it's a good thing to remember that we weren't always where we're at today, and both for good and for bad. So that's just, take some time, think about those or check out those type of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Walk around, touch grass, meet people, shake their hands, listen to them. There's a number of reasons to not like somebody, from meeting them or liking them, but to dislike a group of people just because of dumb shit is the dumbest thing ever. So maybe you can share that when we post this on socials. You can share the link to that in one of the comments. That would be great. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me be here tonight with you guys. I always enjoy the shit out of myself.
Happy to have you, Sam.
It's wonderful. My name is Sam. I'm coming to you from the Pacific Northwest. Up here, I've got Robbie B. coming to you from Canada. And over here, I've got Ben Chase coming to you from the Dakotas. From the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Peace and love. See you next time.